Hi there, welcome to some of the latest news on the Jay Slater missing person case. Once again, Mark Thomas has spoken out recently, a former ex-cop who's been working on this case of Jay to try and figure out what's been going on. Now, previously, we've heard about Jay Slater's dark past, although it's not really been put out there as much as it should be. I mean, I've done my coverage nevertheless. That's been acknowledged, in which Jay Slater was in the past caught up involved with a gang and gang activity, which at one point led, I think in 2021, to a 17-year-old being attacked with machete, golf clubs and an axe, which is obviously a normal activity in the UK, not. But Jay Slater, a part of that, who he associated himself with, and even in court laughing and joking like it was one big joke. Not exactly appropriate, right? There's been other claims in the background about drug dealing, county line type activity. I've not looked too deep into that, but when you look at the different layers, the past, the present, the future, well, that's unknown at this moment, right? Because Jay hasn't been found. But in terms of Jay himself, first time on holiday abroad, what did he get involved in, direct or indirect, and who with? Was it just a matter of on the way back from somewhere or escaping somewhere for whatever reason in his mind, or what was actually happening to the point where something actually went wrong and it backfired? And you might hear me use the terms indirectly and directly because it's important, right? The theme and pattern what I've heard about, when we include the past and the present, research and talks by the likes of Mark Thomas, the acts of criminal behavior, criminal activity, whether it directly be by Jay's own doing or other people who he may be around or come across, brush paths with, you never know. So whilst Jay has done his fair share of bad-ish things in the past, and whilst it may not directly link or correlate to his disappearance as of today, and I don't mean today as in today's date, but more present time, what did Jay get involved in? Anything dodgy? Did he come across anything bad? Anything he wasn't supposed to see? Because the new article, what we're looking at today, is talking about criminal network activities within Tenerife and what's been going on in the area supposedly. And Jay stumbled upon some kind of criminal activity or criminals. Was he silenced? Was he taken out? Was he taken somewhere? And certain points may have been highlighted already, like kidnappings and this and that, and then it's kind of been brushed aside. But this Mark Thomas is looking into the criminal activity, hasn't fully disclosed it yet, because I guess still ongoing. But then you got to think from the perspective of Jay, right? Okay, there might be criminals here and there in this world, but how does that link to Jay? Besides stumbling across them at the wrong time, could it be a disagreement, an argument at some point, and they take it the wrong way? That confrontational at some point, whether that be in the populated area or where it becomes more rural when walking about. The other previous news, although it's not really come up since, it was mentioned previously to do with a Rolex watch, or just a watch with a value of supposedly £12,000, I'm guessing, in that currency. Obviously a very expensive watch, not to say the least. And that was at one of the beach areas, I believe, and it was supposedly stolen. There was a bit of a commotion, and the one who had the watch stolen, there was a bit of a brawl, a bit of a confrontation. Jay supposedly within the area and hearing about it, but then claims, which we saw on the news, that Jay supposedly stole that £12,000 watch. And if that really was the case, would you say that's the direct link as for why he's disappeared? And I could suggest that, you know what, if it's actually true, there could be a direct or an indirect cause from it. So the previous article mentioned that he was like on the way back, the two guys, he felt uncomfortable supposedly. Don't know why that would be the case. Go back to the Airbnb, but then couldn't stay around long enough, wanted to leave, left, didn't want to return back, and was walking elsewhere. Okay, although limited, I don't want to drag things on, but why would one feel scared? Why would one not want to return back to the Airbnb, where it's probably the most practical place to be, especially when you need to charge your phone? Because at the time when that final call was made, Jay's phone was on 1% battery. That would only ping until the phone died. And what could you use from there to trace and track? You couldn't. and Jay couldn't even use it himself to reach out for further help or get another signal elsewhere. But simply stayed at B&B, could have charged a fare and been able to communicate, maybe accessed food and water, more so than out in the rural area, right, where it's a bit desolate and open and some dangerous terrain. But if you're too scared to go somewhere or to return back, there's obviously got to be another reason behind it. Is someone there waiting for you, and that's why you can't go back? People you don't trust who are present at the Airbnb, or that did it tie in with potentially stealing a Rolex, going back to the Airbnb and then realizing, you know what, I kind of regret what I've done. People are after me. People could be after me. I can't stay here. You know, I'm a sitting duck. I've got to leave. I've got to be on the go. Or any people somehow linked to that Airbnb, are any of them related to the watch situation? Where did this whole watch situation come about to begin with? Well, there was references made by that former cop, and you may have seen the videos, talking about how Jay Slater did some kind of Snapchat post announcing it at the time of the watch. Now, was it publicly viewable, this Snapchat post? At least when I was looking, couldn't find it. Did the cop say they could 100% confirm it? No, not really. But they said from what's been said in the background, from what's been found. And I don't know, I just feel like the wording and language wasn't strong enough, wasn't as focused or concrete, which is a great shame, right? But would it surprise me if Jay Slater just so happened to steal a watch off somebody? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me, right? Opportunistic behaviour, trying to benefit from it, you know. Are you going to say once a criminal, always a criminal? That might be a bit too harsh to say, but all I would suggest is if a person already has a bit of a past back then with doing certain dodgy things, right? Troublesome, life-threatening, you know, person, axe, I think it was an axe, machete attack, right? Skull exposed, visible, could have resulted in the death of someone. And Jay was in the presence of that. Did he directly get involved? It didn't quite exactly word it like that, so you've got to at least acknowledge it. But who you'll surround yourself with based on your own personality, your own traits, your own mindset, how you relate to people and things, that's just how it was at the time, right? And if there's anything else dodgy in the background, you can always elaborate down below. You're welcome to do so in the comment section. But then equally, if you do want to defend Jay Slater, for whatever reason that may be, yeah, you can do so down below. Freedom of speech, end of the day. But it's about trying to understand what's concrete and what isn't. And maybe there's not enough concrete stuff in this case, which is unfortunate. As for the phone itself, yeah, final phone ping. But has the actual phone been found, though? I believe there was some talk online about how, you know, if it was somewhere like on the ground, it could be within the vegetation. You know, why don't you search it for yourself? I remember that point being mentioned by someone out there. But without getting too deep about all that other additional things and items, and the situation with those sunglasses, which has kind of gone quiet since, and just to add on from the sunglasses situation, that the individual that claimed to have found them, Paul, whoever his last name was, wasn't the actual person to find them, it was someone else, and then Paul claimed it as if he found it. That sounds like taking glory in a way, benefiting off of that. And of course, people can come across genuine findings along the way, but if you're taking credit when someone else did, that just seems dodgy as well, right? Individual people, there could be claims by the jump up, individual people benefiting and profiting off of this and that, and then you've got the GoFundMe in the background, you know, all kinds of stuff going on. But before we go off track, let's bring it back to the centre of the theme of criminal activity by the hands of Jay Slater himself, or somehow or directly getting involved in other criminal activity out there, criminal individuals. Let's just check this brief article out and see if it's elaborated. So here we are, the article being The Mirror, this time, not the Daily Mail, because I know some people do question the Daily Mail. To be honest, there's been quite a bit of back-to-back news, right? Depending how it's worded, it can change back and forth, which isn't great, is it? But let's just see what's at least mentioned here for now. Jay Slater disappearance has links to established criminal network in Tenerife, ex-cop says. So, to say has sounds somewhat confident. Established criminal networks, they've been there for some time. You're saying that Jay Slater just pops on into Tenerife for the first time round, completely unaware, oblivious to these criminal contacts and individuals out there. Did Jay Slater join the criminal network, or did he get caught up within it? Does this have any link whatsoever to that Rolex watch, right? You could have a criminal, don't dangerous individual out there who's got an expensive watch, and sometimes criminals can be quite rich with the money they make in the background, even if it's illegally. They've got a nice watch. Jay takes it upon himself to possibly steal, pickpocket it, and then ends up catching him out. But surely that would have been immediate then. The thing is, to say indirect, as I was hinting at some point, there could be a possibility, and this is even before reading this article, but I just wanted to throw it out there. There's some kind of criminal activity networks out there in the rural areas or the more populated places, and Jay Slater may have took an opportunistic moment to reap certain rewards, or such as a watch. Just saying, okay? And afterwards, he felt paranoid or worried that what he's done, he could get in trouble. He could be in danger. Maybe others were oblivious or unaware that he was one that took it. But maybe after a supposed public Snapchat post bragging about it in a way, supposedly, it's been claimed in the background, that he then regretted it or felt, damn, maybe I shouldn't have done that, that's public, or a certain amount of people will see that now, and then starts panicking, starts feeling uncomfortable, scared, doesn't want to be around that Airbnb, wants to leave. Is something already there, or does he feel that something is going to approach the place, and that's why he's leaving? Maybe he may have never been in danger or in threat by anyone, but he felt that he was. That paranoia, poor decision making, worrying, and with poor decision making can put you in danger, and things backfired when trying to get away from the place. Was he just simply making his way from point A to point B, or was he escaping from somewhere? If you're scared, that's considered as you're escaping from a location, right? But let's just see what's mentioned here from the point of view of this ex-cop. Tenerife links, yeah, seen that. Teen went missing island 3 weeks ago. Former police cop Mark William Thomas now claiming disappearance has links to an established criminal network in a video posted online. Jay, an apprentice bricklayer, yeah, we've seen all that, left a rave in Tenerife by car with 2 British men and stayed the night at an Airbnb in the middle of a rural village before vanishing. The trip was Jay's first ever time travelling abroad. Okay. He was last heard from on the morning of Monday, June 17th, as he attempted to make his way back to the touristy town of Los Cristianos, where he had been staying with friends Lucy Law and Brad Hargraves, but despite a huge 2-week-long search operation, Jay has not been seen since. Now, just a brief question, maybe it's already been answered before, pardon my lack of knowledge, but got from the rave, which, where was that? Does that say Los Cristianos, the rave, I'm assuming, to the Airbnb, but that was via a car with 2 British guys who we met along the way. So, once he made it to that Airbnb, how come he wasn't able to get in a car to get back to Los Cristianos? Is it because there was no car available at the time? Or there was no one else present or no one willing to give him a lift back there? So he chose to walk. Was that his first decision? He wanted to walk back to the place instead of use a vehicle, or just that the main and obvious important option just wasn't available or possible at the time, so you do the next best thing. But the next best thing isn't always the most practical. It's like the Noah Presgrove case in the US. Noah Presgrove, Oklahoma, near to Terrell. He's wanting to leave a party, but, he got down there in the first place on the Sunday by getting a lift with friends. So when Sunday night came about and he wanted to leave the party for numerous reasons, but one of which having a falling out with his best friend, Jack Newton, no one would give him a lift back. They rejected his request. So what could Noah do? Walk back home, early hours of the morning, in the dark with no lights on, going down a highway which is 42 miles away from his place of living? It sounds impossible, right? He wouldn't be able to make it, but he was found down the highway with not much clothes on, dead with major injuries. And whilst, yes, that's not a missing person case, but the Jay Slater one is, and whilst these 2 individuals are in different places and 2 different types of personas, one's got a criminal past, the other one hasn't, at the end of the day, the act of wanting or needing to leave a location is what's key, right? If you want to leave or you want to go somewhere, you probably plan it out better. When you need to, it's like almost like you're desperate to leave, desperate to get away. Is that because you're scared? You feel in danger? Did you bring danger to your doorstep? Did you bring danger towards yourself by taking responsibility of a bad action you did? Or indirectly, you got caught up in something and you didn't mean it to happen, right? As for the Noah Presgrave case, there was some disagreements, there was some flirting, some jealousy possibly in the background, frustrations, ongoing arguments, some form of revenge and jealousy, taking out on Noah Presgrave, but in the process Noah wanting to leave, distance himself, one thing could lead to another. It's just that those caught up with him. Did anyone catch up with Jay Slater? If Jay Slater was trying to distance himself, get away from the Airbnb, but actually walk on the go and cover quite some distance. I think, what was it, like 11 hours it would have taken to get from point A to point B back to Los Cristianos. Well, willing enough to take it upon himself to attempt that challenge, that feat, which is a great demand. He must have been motivated to do so. I think most normal people would be thinking, you know what, I don't really want to be covering that distance, especially in hot temperatures and the terrain it is. It's probably not exactly practical, but if you've got no choice, then you do it regardless, right? Did Jay Slater have a choice? Okay, him going missing may not be his choice or his direct action or plan or aim within, so it could have backfired or gone wrong, or more unexplainable or darker. I just thought, just throw it out there, just for you, just for little comparisons. I know not everyone will know the Noah Presgrave case, but you can always go on my channel and look at the playlist just as a reference point, okay? So last heard off on Monday, June 17th, attempted to make his way back to Los Cristianos, where he had been staying with the friends, but despite a huge 2-week-long search operation, Joe has not been seen since. I mean, I don't know if it's already been mentioned, but like the friends, Lucy Law, Brad Hargraves, did they contest when Jay was leaving the place and was going to go with those two guys? Was there any, hey, should you be trusting those two guys? You should stay with us. Was there any contesting like that? Because it kind of reminds me of the Riley Strain case in Tennessee, in one of the bars, where Riley kicked out because of being too drunk or not following rules, and no one from the party, the fraternity brothers, really following after him to escort him back to the hotel. And although maybe not as great in distance as this case, Riley somewhat vulnerable because he was drunk. He was walking the streets at night, evening time, it's dark, by himself. Anything could happen, right? Especially when you're drunk, you're not quite there with it. No one was there to guide him back home. His reaction time slower, thought process somewhat impaired. It's like with Jay Slater. Jay Slater, at the time of when he was getting away from the place, alone, supposedly at least, dehydrated or on the verge of that, confused, scared, poor decision making, maybe, vulnerable, rough terrain. Yeah. Now, when I say Jay being vulnerable, I don't mean innocent as in, oh, he's so innocent in general. No, because we know about his past, right? Let's not forget that. But just in the process, the general scheme of things is when a person is out in the open, in the wild and rural areas, sometimes the worst places to go missing, because obviously there's lacking of surveillance for most part of it, less people, less witnesses. It's a problem. Let's continue on. So this is the guy, Mark Thomas, and the parents there. Earlier this week, the case took a dark turn with the revelation that one of the last individuals to see Jay was found to be a convicted drug dealer. The news that the disappearance has underworld connections was delivered by TV detective Mark William Thomas, who flew to Tenerife to help find Jay, and said further digging into the investigation has opened up an established criminal network with links to drugs, violent crime and theft. Now, are we saying that Jay Slater's got caught up directly within that? He's participated in himself by choice, consent? Not exactly, because I don't think that's been established enough yet. Could he have been caught up in it somehow as a victim? Maybe, but maybe some would find it hard to believe. One thing for certain, the theme of drugs, violent crime, theft is interesting because some of those terms do apply indirectly or directly to Jay Slater at some point in life. So in terms of the violent crime, Jay Slater back in 2021, a part of a gang which chased 17-year-old through the woods, beat him up, used machete, axe, golf club in his skull, made him bleed out, almost fatal. Not good, is it? Violent crime. Jay Slater present at the time? Did he directly participate? Didn't exactly say. But was he there to see it? Did he allow it? Yes. So you surround yourself with others, other networks of people, gangs, who are violent, cowardly, hide behind a mask, use weapons against defenseless people. Says a lot about oneself, right? So in a weird way, if Jay came across this type of behaviour, these connections, although maybe more established and not as amateur as in the UK with back in the past, Jay Slater could somehow indirectly relate to these people when it comes to this type of criminal activity, right? Let's just be realistic. Not saying one joins that group, but, you know, oh, they've done bad, I've done bad, we're kind of on the same page, right? Kinda. Not entirely. As for the talk about theft, well, if we're linking it to Jay Slater stealing a watch, you know, did Jay steal from a person a part of some kind of organised crime, established criminal networks in the background? Or is it just a stranger who hasn't got any dodgy connections or ties, but they're rich? But a watch being stolen, and then you got other people out there that steal as well, theft. Did it just go wrong for Jay? That opportunity backfires somehow. All I'm getting at is, you know, you got bad out there in this world, but then if you get one individual that's seen as a victim and seen as innocent, but they've got their own dark past and maybe they do re-offend here and there, you know, are they any better? Don't mind. As for the drug thing, well, that just more ties in with the claims made, you know, in the eyes of the community, not by me, but others where they've said that, oh yeah, Jay Slater caught up in county lines and drug dealing in the past. I don't know how true that is, I'm going to be honest with you, but, you know, if it did happen at some point, wouldn't surprise me, that's all I'm saying. He said, as part of this investigation, we have sought to speak with all of the people Jay had contact with whilst in Tenerife. The result of digging has opened up an established criminal network with links to drugs, violent crime, yeah. I cannot expand on any further on what we now know. You can't expand what? Because of legal reasons? Because it's too dark, it's too true? I'm unable to say if this network has anything to do with Jay's disappearance, but remain open-minded as we continue to investigate. So you could say, indirectly, crossed paths. Jay's got his own past, doing his own thing, maybe cleaner now, maybe not. Indirectly crosses paths with active bad people, and it backfired somehow, but maybe not immediate. I mean, if there was criminal activity going on out there, is it in the rural areas, nearer to the Airbnb, or near the populated places, like Los Cristianos, I wonder? This guy, isn't he the owner of the Airbnb? Ayub Qasim invited J19 back to his rented holiday cottage. There you go. And from this, it looks to be a mugshot, which isn't a good look, is it? Most read. Jay said to Mystery Man, Johnny Vega's real identity finally revealed as new details emerge. Johnny Vegas? Oh no, this is starting to sound like a circus show, I'll be honest with you. What's going on here? Man checks ring doorbell notification whilst at work. Okay, that's just unrelated news. Mark, also revealed on Sunday, Ayub Qasim, 31, was imprisoned 9 years ago for orchestrating a scheme to inundate Wales with Class A drugs. The mystery Johnny Vegas who drove the missing teen to the deserted holiday rental. Right, was in prison 9 years ago, orchestrating. So they're saying that Ayub Qasim is the mystery Johnny Vegas, even though they look completely different visually. Are you saying that that person looks like Johnny Vegas? He does not look like Johnny Vegas at all. I mean, his teeth look a bit dodgy. And a bit of a dodgy haircut, to be honest. Could do better there, but yeah, I guess it's what it's all to do with, right? The Class A drugs. Now, so I'm starting to notice maybe another small pattern besides this whole criminal activity on and off, past, present, paths crossed with other bad people out there. Is there a possibility that Jay Slater is the type of person that no matter the past or the present, he surrounds himself, or he just so happens to approach and come across others that are like him or worse than him, who have criminal past, whether it's similar to what Jay's been involved with in the past or different, but whether it be subconsciously or consciously, where you surround yourself with people, you form these groups or subgroups where there's others out there that are just like you in mindset, mentality, your presence, what you've done, your past, your history, your current history, etc. I don't know, it's like, if Jay in the past surrounded himself with other rough people, gangs, not exactly good, is it? and gang violence, and then on holiday first time round comes across some strangers, one of which has been done for orchestrating drug dealing in the past, 9 years ago or so, I think Wales. Not exactly a good look, but having that trust in that individual at the time, oh, come back to my place, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, but you don't normally do that when you come across strangers. You got to build a bit of a rapport. And is it because Jay Slater is too trustworthy? Is he naive? Is he the type of person to be groomed into a group or a gang and in the end seen as innocent? I don't think he is innocent, okay, me personally. I think you need to understand that people do have a past and you got to look at that closely just to make sure that they don't reoffend or old habits don't come back in or creep in or alternative ways onwards. And with the themes and talks of this case, criminal activity, stealing watch here and there, it doesn't look that good. The theme of something backfiring, the theme of rationally thinking and poor planning, but also being desperate to get from point A to point B could be the key factors as to why he's ended up missing. But in terms of who he surrounds himself with, Jay would rather go with some random guy who doesn't know is a drug dealer, or supposedly didn't know was a drug dealer, two other guys, and just abandon or just walk away from his two main friends who he does know. So you ditch your friends and you go with some strangers. It doesn't sound exactly normal, does it? So that's a bit weird in itself. But just wanted to throw that out there. See what happens next. I still don't think this case is strong enough in terms of how it's being talked about and how it switches from one thing to another and how just drip feed a bit of this, drip feed a bit of that, but no, we can't back it up just right now, or we can't quite confirm it, but we're also claiming it did happen. It's not always a good look. Got to be very specific with language and wording, and I don't think this case has nailed it just yet, but see what happens next. Appreciate people's patience. If you have watched, if you are interested in other cases, there are on my channel. But we'll leave it there for now. Goodbye.